Little serene and pristine outside on a somewhat sultry Thursday afternoon on this March the 5th here at Gulfstream Park. The palm trees standing at attention, very little wind outside right now with those South Florida high rises in the background and obviously the turf course in the foreground along with a fast main track. As Acacia and Jason welcome you to this live Thursday edition of Gulfstream today. We continue on Acacia, March in full swing, and another solid weekend upon us, one that includes our buddy Chance at going out of town to run at Tampa Bay.
Yeah, we have actually quite a few of our Gulfstream horses and jockeys that we will be familiar with running in big stakes this weekend, so we'll definitely be cheering all of them on. But we get set for a 10-race card this afternoon, and as Jason said, it's going to be up close to 90 today, so if you're not out on the beach, or maybe you are, and you're betting the races while you're doing that.
Absolutely. Fire up the First Bet app and download that and get involved with our 10-race card, split down the middle with 5 on the main and 5 on the turf course. And as we move forward, not only with the first race post time, about 60 minutes, give or take, on the horizon, we do have a 10-race Friday card to discuss, and that includes one race here from Gulfstream Park as part of the $100,000 Stronach 5 that features, in fact, a 1-2 punch off the bat from Laurel.
That's right. You can have your attention geared towards Maryland towards the start. Starts in race number 8. They are the host of our bet. Then we go out to California. We get that done. Santa Anita and Golden Gate. We wrap things up with race 9 here at Gulfstream. So as always, it's about an hour and a half of excitement. 12%, that low takeout always makes it a very appealing wager to bettors, and we hope that you're taking part. We have that $100,000 guarantee.
And 4 very nice undercard maiden special weights here locally tomorrow. Yeah. I like that Friday card.
Looking forward to that.
Yeah, definitely. A couple of nice turf sprint allowances stacked late in the day as well. And again, interspersed throughout 4 key maiden special weights. We've also got, moving forward, 1 guarantee. There are no carryovers to speak of, but we do have 600,000 plus reasons to get involved in this jackpot Rainbow Six. Just the 20-cent minimum gets you in the door. We got a couple of pick 5s as well. Acacia, race 6 starts the late pick 5. You're going to take a little crack, as is tradition, at the early one on a Fast and Firm Thursday.
That's right. Races 1 through 5, and we'll show you my ticket to take a look here. No singles. I did try to pare things down a bit, and I am a bit nervous about the first race. Jason and I were talking before we came on. It is pretty tricky. I don't have Holy Muchacho on there, as I tried to keep it a little bit more affordable, and that is a horse I am a bit nervous of, but I thought the 2 made the most sense to me with the 6 and 8. Tricky competitive race going a mile on the turf in the second, so I'm using 4 horses there. We have a nice, even though it's a maiden 25, I think it's a very nice race and an interesting one in the third. 2 deep there with the outside couple. Maybe considered singling Feature Creature just as I kept going through, but seeing John Velasquez on Comet Kitten, I'll use that one. And then we wrap things up with a maiden 50 going 5 on the turf, which does also kickstart the Rainbow Six, and I'm 2 deep there, making it a $32 ticket.
Now looking at your 2-horse spread mid-pack, or at least towards the outside with the 6 and 8 in this upcoming 7-horse cast with the very early scratch of the number 2 at the beach, who was withdrawn from this race a few days back. You've got a cast of 3-year-olds in this $25,000 to $20,000 maiden claimer. I think off the bat, what really complicated matters, in my mind anyway, all these horses have to go a mile, and not many in this race have shown any form whatsoever.
Well, the 6 can go a mile, that we know. Embrace My Uncle, so that was, I think, a benefit for this horse. Actually ran okay in his first start coming down from Woodbine, and typically with this barn or Woodbine horses in general, like to see them maybe have a little bit more seasoning here in South Florida first, and obviously the wheels have kind of fallen off a little bit. He ran a good second that day. He did step up and maiden special weight, which was too much behind Candy Tycoon and Gimme Some Mo. So he faced a really nice maiden special weight field there. But seeing Irad Ortiz up, the drop in class, this one just kind of looked like go time for this horse, who I've always thought had some ability. So hopefully this is the spot.
Yeah, we'll see if he turns it around. I mean, his form has eroded him drastically since that race here, Pegasus week, or he ran before the Pegasus, right before the start of the new year, and from the Candy Tycoon race on, I mean, he's been a non-factor. Maybe he'll wake up in this race again where you just don't have a lot of prior consistent solid form to bite onto here. And with that in mind, I'm going to take a horse that has only run once on the dirt, the number 3 Starship Bubba, whose dirt debut from a figure standpoint and where he finished in an 8-horse field, although he was beaten in pretty good ways, it was a respectable effort. And here's the issue, Acacia. I wanted someone I thought might be able to make the lead and might just get brave on the front end in this spot.
That's certainly fair, and I do wonder what we're going to see from the 8 Uno Baby Bird, who even if you don't completely trust him, I feel like he's one you have to use. I know that he's stretching out in distance, but he does have a little bit of early speed, and maybe with the drop and the stretch out, we're going to see him forwardly placed.
Sure.
Not to mention, I mean, the likelihood of 6 next out winners from a race is not the highest, but 5 already have come back out of that field of was a big field, field of 13, came back to win.
Right, that was closing weekend.
Yeah.
Might have been closing Saturday when Chancet won the final leg of the Florida Sire Stakes back on September 29th. And obviously for Kathy Ritvo, that colt by Macho Uno is really working up a storm. A glittering type of work tab of late. We'll see how he does here, going a pretty demanding mile in the first race. A different surface, but the same distance. Moving on to Thursday second, coming up on this older filly mare, 2 lifetime claimer. Number of rematches in this race, and we'll talk about them in a few seconds, including the horse that Acacia and I like as the favorite. But let's mention David Fox here off the claim with the number 4, Andy's Kitten, as we backtrack to the afternoon of January 5th. If memory serves, this was the day after the Mucho Macho Man, and we've got Andy's Kitten on a Sunday stroll, literally paying $2.10 or $2.20 in a race she never had an anxious moment in. Does she step up and maybe move forward off this race, first off the claim for trainer David Fox?
Well, it's interesting because taking that big drop in class and just looking at the 1 to 9 price, and she had to be asked just a little bit with maybe Always Lucky closing a bit, but there were never any real anxious moments in the stretch. She really just seemed to lay over that field. So you wonder, yes, it's a step up in class, but after a win like that, clearly she can be competitive in a little bit higher level. So she's a logical one in this spot for a barn that certainly has a good record off the claim and a horse that's already in good form. I did think, however, though, the drop So Charming is taking today, and she ran okay last time behind Kitten at the C in that 40,000 non-winners of 2, but I think this drop is really going to help her maybe be a touch more competitive, as she's just consistently been running against really salty competition.
Yeah, I don't see Safi just wasting his time running a horse for 40 or for 35 if he didn't feel as though she or he could win there, and perhaps that has something. In fact, I think the real crux with this horse dipping in for 20K, again, one of 4 rematching out of that loss and race won by Kitten by the C on February 14th. You and I taking the 2-7 with Shikaka second, who's got the speed here.
And I liked this horse last time at 11 to 1, and it was just too much in that field, the same race that we've been talking about. And I almost went back to the well with this one, but felt that maybe there was a touch more class with the other horse we just mentioned. But I do think that this could be a good spot for this filly.
Let's move on to the third, a similar type situation. In fact, quite a few parallels with that first race we just talked about. We'll bring on the 3-year-old fillies, unlike the Colts and Geldings in the first, who all have to go 1-turn mile in Thursday's third. We go with a cast of 6. Number of higher profile trainers in the race, Acacia, and it's a pretty interesting race, but a very difficult one, because who is going to handle the 1 mile distance? I see you're just going with the speed here, and I get that. That's the real sort of appeal with the 6 Uncaptured Ruby. She's going to get the lead. Can she stay 8 furlongs?
That's going to be the question. Now, the dam was best going long on the dirt, so I'm hoping that pedigree does carry over. We've got Luis Saez. I think this horse is going to be sharp out of the gate, and like to see Luis stay, and he's very good with horses on the front end. So that was my thinking with this one, on top of the pedigree, as we mentioned. But some tricky horses in there. Arguably, Shining Colors, her best race was going a mile and a 16th. We'll see if that was kind of a fluke on that wet track off the turf, or if she can back it up as well.
No, it's a good point with that race at Tampa, off the turf or not, being a mile and a 16th around 2 turns, because her Gulfstream debut was not a good effort here. Won by Safi's Lori Lupes, who just obliterated that field. She'll dip in for 25,000, the 7 Shining Colors, and another Kentucky face will do the same, who I picked in the 2 Rhythm Tree, who maybe she's grown up a little bit in the 2 months she's had on the sidelines for Ian Wilkes. And clearly, this is the easiest race she's been in by a wide swath when you're talking about her dirt races to date.
100%. And even the turf race she faced last time was salty. multi, though it was for 50,000. Her pedigree is a bit more sprint. She's half to graded stakes winner Rich Mommy, who we know well here, but she was obviously much better sprinting, 6-7 furlongs even. So we'll see how that carries over. And I do think a mile maybe versus 2 turns will be good for Rhythm Tree.
Neat little matchup coming up in this 4th race. You've got, again, a little bit of a revenge showdown between Starship Tribbles and Night Watch, who to me are the big two coming out of their last out race, or certainly deserve a good chunk of the discussion. I like this replay, though, even though Chilled Milk is not running today. You'll see the 2 gray mares, Starship Tribbles, the Deuce, who got a great ride from Louis Saez. Boy, just a textbook turf ride, pocketed up. She'll angle out. Night Watch with Edgar Zayas essentially followed her and will angle out and get off the rail later on in the stretch run. But a good battle between Chilled Milk, the 6, and Jose Ortiz, the gray, and Starship Tribbles, who seems to have run for the most part, by appointment only. She's only, run 3 times since her 4-year-old season, but she's a player at Night Watch who has since, out of that race, run a couple of times, including a much higher level last time out. I like her dipping back down in for 25,000.
Yeah, that's certainly fair. I do think that Night Watch, again, has raced a couple more times since then, but she's faced some good company in the meantime. I thought that Starship Tribbles was certainly very worthy of respect. I wanted a new face coming into this, though. I think the Codrington race, obviously, that horse was in good form. I know that Feature Creature ran behind these two starts back, but this one stepped up to Starter Allowance Company and showed a lot more speed last time. Seeing her at Ortiz up, and obviously Paco Lopez put a lot more speed with this filly last time. I think she's in a really good spot in here today because I think that she's best when she's on or much closer to the lead than she has been. And I don't see a ton of genuine speed in here. Maybe Algodano from the outside, yes, has speed, but will be tested for class this afternoon. So I'm going to take one who I think can maybe kind of work out a better trip.
And a new claim, let's give a quick pop to the 6 Comet Kitten, who does have Johnny V, claimed off Mike Maker, but a win nonetheless not all that long ago, my birthday coincidentally, on February 8th, by trainer William Theranos, who's got 6 off-the-claim winners over the last 5 years.
And it is interesting. It looked like the for sale sign was up for this horse, who not too long ago, back in August, was facing Graded Stakes Company out at Arlington. So curious, it seemed like it was kind of a typical Maker move. Let's put this horse in for a lower tag where he can win. Not surprising. She was claimed, but Johnny V gets the mount, and we'll see how she does stepping back up to 25.
All right, for more of a Canadian-based barn who does have a trio of wins from only 14 starters at the meet, we've got some maiden turf coming up and a whole lot more after this.
It's the dawn of a new day in racing. All attention is on the safety of the horses from more professionals than ever before. Our eyes are on the prize to gallop past the old era towards a reinvention of our sport. Take your place with us now. This is it. The future of racing is off and running. It's all happening at each of our world-class venues. Our new vision for racing will drive us past the finishing line, heralding a new era for the sport. When betting, avoid the rush and allow First Bet to give you a leg up. Our app uses real-time data to help you make your bets with confidence. Enjoy a new vision for post-race entertainment. From the oval to the stage, the after party, and beyond. We invite you to the future of racing. A first of its kind.
Well, this first full week in March continues on with a 10-race Thursday and a nice day here on the warm side, perhaps, as Acacia noted that mercury rising in the high 80s, maybe around 90 degrees, and not much breeze coming in off the ocean. Certainly cool and comfortable, and hopefully you're in your favorite spot as we catch up with you for the second segment of this live edition of Gulfstream today. A lot going on, as we said, and 2 stakes here Saturday, Acacia, by the way. Fountain of Youth might be in the rearview mirror, but turf sprinting at a high level is where it's at.
Oh, that's never in the rearview mirror at Gulfstream Park, so looking forward to those. Every Saturday is great. Obviously, the countdown now to the Florida Derby the end of this month, and seeing some of the big horses on the work tab and pointing to that, which we'll all be looking forward to. But hopefully you will join us this weekend as well for some more great racing.
Absolutely. A little Shecky Shabazz in the mix here Saturday in the co-featured Silks Run. Yeah, he's a hard hitter, and I think moving off the rail is going to help him a great deal.
Tough trip last
A
time.
very tough trip on that Pegasus undercard. And it's been, well, if we're being honest, which we always try to be, it's been tough sledding in our winter meet championship season, Beat the Expert, which we have each and every Friday. But as I told Ronnie, I like tomorrow's card. I told him yesterday on this show, I like the Friday offering here and a regular start time of about 1:05 Eastern, and I'm feeling pretty good for that March the 6th Beat the Expert.
All right. Well, hopefully you'll play. It's free to play. It's a lot of fun, even though we do seem to lose every week. So hopefully you'll join us. You could have the chance to win one of those Beat the Expert polos.
We're going to need your expert opinion, Acacia, not only taking down the rainbow today with that 600K guarantee. How do you like this opening launch pad here? So very tricky race.
Very tricky race. You've got some layoffs, some first-time turfers. I'm 3 deep in here, but there are a lot of potentially different ways to go for sure, including a $340,000 colt by American Pharaoh for Todd Pletcher that is debuting for 50. 3 deep in the opener. Like this race quite a bit. And speaking of Todd, he's got an interesting runner in Guacamole who I wasn't completely sure what to do with. It seems like they're searching a bit, but I will use her protectively with a couple of other horses in there. 7th race, Fiber Optic should be, I think, pretty tough to beat. Second off the layoff for Ian Wilkes, backing myself up with one other. I really like the 8th race today. I'm curious to see what we're going to get from Up in Smoke, who was so good first time out for George Weaver. And then we have another 5-furlong turf sprint in the 9th. That's very nice. And we wrap things up. I think the logical inside two seem to be the ones to beat for me.
43.20 for Acacia's ticket there. As let's talk about up off the bat, American Phenom, who, as you correctly stated, by American Pharaoh, out of a Ghost Zapper Dam, who was a very good horse.
Yeah.
And he won 5 of 8 on the turf for about $270,000.
Yeah.
You pay, and I get the APs were selling like hotcakes during his yearling season. Really, the first time in a real general sense, they were offered up at sale. But still, you paid $340 for a horse, and then you debut for $50K first time out.
Yeah, you never like to see that, and we've actually seen a few of these for Todd throughout the championship meets. Some of them have panned out okay, and then some of them have been very disappointing and maybe been claimed in the process. So I, like you, thought that this would be a good spot to look for somebody else. And I went with the 6 Living Vicariously, who goes back to the turf. The last turf race here at Gulfstream was for $50,000. It was the first time here in South Florida. Ran a solid third place finish that day behind No Name Maybe, who we'll see a little bit later on. I think getting back on the grass with a Misael Jaramillo and has some speed too. I like the jockey change in here, and I think that that's going to help this colt at a nice price potentially.
Could be a nice price, and we'll see ultimately the Navarro horse that I picked, just what kind of price the number 7 Sea Trident goes off at. Jorge Navarro picked up a couple of wins here yesterday, and it's been solid meet for him, maybe not up to the standards of his 2019 or 2018-2019 championship season. I wonder, though, looking at a 2-win Wednesday, if this is a barn that fairly late in this winter season may be set to go on a run. I also believe that this horse at least has the patina of a colt that will love the turf, being by Mizzen Mast out of a Stormy Atlantic Dam. The production regarding who's in the family, it's not really there, but still, that's a pretty big, aesthetically speaking, turf pedigree, Mizzen Mast and Stormy Atlantic.
It is. The siblings have been winless on the grass, and the dam was 0 for 2 on the turf. The race that he comes out of, though well beaten, was obviously very, very good with attachment rate and one other coming out of that to win. Curious as to how he's going to take to the grass. The last Palmetto's turf work was good. From a visual standpoint, he didn't scream turf to me, but maybe it will help him wake up in here. Obviously, I think American Phenom one you have to use, and I was a bit intrigued by Lance Mitan to the outside for Rodolphe Brisset, whose only other turf race he was actually the favorite in, which was interesting, at Ellis Park and against Special Weight Company.
And Ralph Nix has a declaration of war,
That one's
second-time
interesting,
starter.
too.
Give me 20 down inside, who's got Tyler coming in off a 4-win Wednesday. First full out of a dam, who was a 2-time 2-year-old winner on the dirt and synthetics. So maybe that bodes well with the declaration of war influence to doing okay second time out. Moving on to the 6th race here, we'll start the Thursday late pick 5, and we're on the main track. And the technical feature on the program, pretty high level for this second allowance optional claimer, non-winners of 2 allowance optional claimer for the older fillies and mares. That sees me using 2 in Guacamole, who I think is finally in the right kind of spot today, and the number 5 Bold Script, who I prefer in the rematch with Bella Ciao. singling the very speedy Fiber Optic, who I just couldn't decide outside of her, and her last race was very strong on the surface. You've got 7 horses coming out of another race from February 13th. There were some bad trips in that race, and in the end, I just didn't know what to do with that field. So Fiber Optic, the single. Too deep for me in race number 8 this afternoon, using Merseyside, who I think is going to improve for Safi, and I really like the 7 Up in Smoke. I thought her debut was excellent. Right back to George Weaver, one of 2 that I have in the 9th, and wrapping it up with a 4-horse spread, including the big 2 from post 2 and post number 1. Let's talk about potentially post number 1 with Guacamole after we get into the replay of Bold Script and Bella Ciao, who were coming out of, or are both coming out of, second and third place finishes behind the one-time stakes winning Kentucky horse in Lady Kate, who was the number 4 for Eddie Keneally and was naturally a big favorite at 4-5. Bold Script chased 3 wide on the turn, was under a long drive from Johnny V. Bella Ciao in the neon green cap basically tracked inside. She'll angle out. They both ran okay in this race. They didn't blow me away, but they're both contenders.
Yeah, they are, but I think Bold Script was off of a layoff too, and was running against a horse that's just been on fire recently for Eddie Keneally, and I think is very, very good. I actually thought Bold Script ran solidly in this spot. It was an okay performance from Bella Ciao as well, she has her moments of being very good, and it's almost just kind of trying to figure out where she belongs. And I think that that's been a little bit of a challenge for her. However, Bold Script, who had been facing obviously really, really tough company up at Woodbine. The last time we saw her at Gulfstream was in the Devona Dale as well. So she came down to Gulfstream, and it wasn't stakes company, but she did run into a very good horse who's in good form. So I think that she has every license to take a step forward with the tactical speed. Bella Ciao is just kind of one that's often right there, which is the key for her. Now, Guacamole is so interesting because I had actually liked her on the turf 2 starts back. They switched back to the main track. Now it's the stretch out in distance. She has a lot of speed. I just never really know what to expect from her.
She's been quite curiously campaigned. I mean, her resume is pretty distinct because she's been all over the map in stakes company. I think assuming she, and I guess that's the catch-22, you don't know if she's as good on the dirt going a mile against the likes of a Bold Script or Bella Ciao, but it's a compact field. She's going to get the lead, and I'm thinking this might be more of her game than even trying 5 on the turf at a high level, which she caught 2 back. Turf might be okay for her going 5 at Gulfstream. It was a little bit of a shell shock for her when they really came and were running at her in that last furlong, and no one was beating Blame last time out, who would run and just had that disastrously fast pace here. Pegasus Day came back and blew them out of the water last time for Bill Mott.
Yeah, it was a big performance from that horse, who was obviously a ton of back class as well, and I thought it was a solid field. And clearly, Guacamole, given the fact that towards the start of her career, she broke her maiden through DQ and then went right into Graded Stakes Company. She hasn't had the easiest of campaigns, so maybe this almost will be a bit of a breather for her being in a good spot.
Now, we've got Fiber Optic coming up as the horse to beat and clear favorite in the 7th race. And again, I almost had the dividing line between Fiber Optic, who's stepping up and I guess ostensibly trying a tougher field off a very smart return here for Ian Wilkes against that 7-horse rematch from February 13th. And like you, Acacia, or like me, I see you like Fiber Optic as opposed to taking one of those 7-horse rematches.
I really like her in here. I thought it was a nice performance from her last time. I like that even though she dropped off the layoff, she comes back at a comparable level than she did last time, and didn't send this stat in, but Ian Wilkes with winners last time out, second off the layoff on the turf. He's 6 for 24 for 25% win, and it's a positive ROI. So when he comes back and they win off the layoff, he's able to keep them in that good form moving forward, which I think is a really encouraging stat. And this one's pretty versatile as well. I think that she certainly could build off that last race.
We've got George Weaver, meanwhile, in the 8th race. We'll turn the page, and we're up in class. I do like this cast of Florida-bred 3-year-old fillies. Good race, maybe not the feature. I think the Guacamole field has a slightly higher purse, but this is a good race today for sure. Led by a pricey second-time starting 3-year-old filly by the Big Beast, and here's her debut going back to Saturday, February 8th, where Up in Smoke got bet after breaking or despite breaking from post 11 and ran just like a seasoned Florida bred who's got the ability to match right now. This was a good effort.
Yeah, it was a very nice effort for her. First time out for George Weaver, and she is a very striking filly by the Big Beast, and she looks like she should be one that really will continue to move forward after that big effort. There was no catching her, and it was actually pretty solid field that she was running against. So I think that she's the one to beat, just the way that she finished up last time. Sometimes it's not even just how many lengths they win by, but visually how she was just wrapped up in the end, I thought was really encouraging. You mentioned Merseyside. She's got a shot after finally getting to the main track last time out. I do think that she's going to be solid, and I like Richie's Great Girl getting back to the main track.
Definitely. Her last dirt race against an easier field, but it was a fast race, and a dominant win at Tampa was good for trainer Larry Ravelli. We welcome back a very speedy Belladonna off the layoff for Ralph Nix, and Safi is back as well with the newly turned 3-year-old filly in Merseyside. Good little mix there, led, of course, by the Big Beast horse for George Weaver, who a race later, as we head back to the turf course, in fact, our 5th and final grass race on the card will go as Thursday's 9th. We've got George in the mix with the Bahamian Prince, a Florida bred by Bahamian Squall, who, let's backtrack, mid-December, this horse's last turf start, which I think is relevant because although he ran okay last time out, I still think this horse, A, is going to get a good trip in a race where there are a number of very fast horses signed on towards the outside. I think they're going to be rolling, and he's got the speed from the rail to just maybe sit the pocket, and his turf races have all been pretty good.
And he actually ran okay on the dirt last time behind Miles Ahead, who's really found his home on the main track, but I think that Bahamian Prince is a touch better on the turf, and that's what he's going to get to do today. Pretty game 2 starts back, showing that replay to get the win there on the turf. And it was a nice, I think, encouraging to see him break his maiden in September at Laurel. Bit of a layoff, come down to Gulfstream and get that win right away on the grass. So he's kind of found his home, found his groove, and the level he belongs.
Scarcely Campaign has been the Irish bred, the 5 remaster, who with that in mind, maybe they almost get a free roll to drop this horse in for $25,000. It seems, though, like he's got some ability in his 2 races, spread out by a great deal of time. And there is that part of me, although we both have him second, I go, boy, seems like $25,000 claiming is just an awfully low price for this horse.
It really does. I mean, one first time out very impressively at the end of May here at Gulfstream in special weight. We didn't see him again until November. Bet down as a heavy favorite and ran a good second at the end of November, and we haven't seen him since. So obviously there have been some hiccups along the way. He's just making his 3rd start. He is a gelding now. He was gelded before his first start even, and I'm curious as to what we're going to get from him, but maybe the drop will just kind of propel him forward.
There's no drop here. In fact, it's the opposite for the number 2, No Nay Maybe. Kind of funny, you have a couple of Irish breds in the race, but only one is by No Nay Never, and that's the deuce, No Nay Maybe. Good stat for trainer Jorge Navarro. This was a number I looked up, a category I looked up, just kind of solely out of curiosity and wasn't sure what the results might show, but obviously dealing with the Baker's Dozen in the starter sample column, you've got 5 wins for close to 40%, so that could work out well for this horse who's not in a claiming race for the first time in quite a while.
That's one thing I like, too, to see that he is protected. And I like that stat because oftentimes you just look at first off the claim, and sometimes you want to see if they can sustain that momentum. And it was a key race as well with 2 next out winners.
Here's the 10th race, 3-year-old fillies wrapping up the card here, 12-5 to 10-5 claiming tags in the last. You and I, we're boxing up the super here. We're all 1-2-5-8 on the show. I'm going to take the number 5, a Fandy, who just in the end, I threw up my hands. I wanted someone I thought might just be able to make the lead out of the starting gate.
Yeah, that's fair. I had a tough time with this race. I think that that one figures. I think Fast Venezuela on the drop figures, and I thought probably Grace, who's been with some good barns. 2 races have been good. The last one was bad, so I'm hoping that's just a throwout, and we'll get to see what we saw from her in her first couple.
Rod Ortiz Jr. sticking around to ride the nightcap. 103 wins here at the meet. He picked up a 2-win Wednesday, in fact. And speaking of winning, you know who's coming up next? The one and only Pete Aiello with those Thursday scratches and changes.